Hey everybody, welcome back. It's that time of the week again where we geek out over all the fun movie stuff that we have planned for this week. So it's going to be Star Trek week, so in a bit we're going to start talking about all the Star Trek movies and a little bit about the Star Trek TV shows. But as we usually do at the beginning of this, I like to go over the weekend box office because I am a geek for movies more than anything, and I am kind of interested to see the success or failure based on finances. Obviously that's not the make or break of any movie. Well, it kind of is the make or break of any movie, but you know, not on an artistic level. But it does still fascinate me because I do enjoy the art of the business. So let's jump right into this. Now I already kind of know because Ghostbusters opened this weekend and I was curious how it was going to do. I already know a little bit about what's going on. I know it did not get number one. We'll get to that in a second. But number one, of course, is The Secret Life of Pets. I get it, I predicted it, kids will love this movie. I'm surprised it's making as much as it is in its second week. Another $50.8 million, so that's pretty damn good. It actually, no, the change went down. Okay, it went on more screens, but it had about a 50% drop. So that makes about sense. The kids like it, the adults don't. So I can get behind that. And it puts it at a total of $203.4 million with a budget of 75. So there'll be a sequel. I just hope the jokes get funnier in the sequel because everything else about it was good. It just wasn't like the family movie. You can go see my review, but anyways, I did well. It did edge out Ghostbusters. Now, in a way, this isn't really a surprise because of all the controversy surrounding Ghostbusters. So, I'm just happy it's actually up there and it's doing pretty well. It made $46 million in its opening weekend, so budget of $144. The concern is that it's not opening in China, so I don't know how well it'll do in the global box office, but I do know that this was intended to be a franchise starter. I do know that Sony is all in with this, so I think they will take a chance with giving us a second one. And, I don't really have many critiques because I know, look, a lot of you guys are going to hate it, a lot of you guys are going to love it. I hate that they over-politicized it because at the end of the day, it's actually a solid movie. I mean, there's problems with it. I'm not saying it's perfect. You may have seen me totally gush and geek out over it, which is true, and I still feel that way and would love to see it again. But, there are things I would have done differently. But overall, it made me want to be a Ghostbuster again, so I really loved it, and I'm glad to see it's not failing miserably. However, like a lot of people, a lot of reviewers, it would have been nice to see it either do extremely well or extremely poorly, just so one side or the other could say ha, but again, I don't know, maybe that's the magic that it's riding right in the middle. But anyways, that is your number two. Number three is Legend of Tarzan, which is actually kind of a surprise because it's in its third week, and it was a huge drop in like the amount though, and from 2 to 3, because 3, Tarzan made $11.4 million in that week, and it's grossed 103 domestically with $180 million budget. So you know what? Actually, that's pretty good. Once you factor in the overseas, that will be something probably considered a success. So there might be another one. I just hope they hand it off to a different director that can handle the action better because I think that was my real problem with it. But other than that, I did quite enjoy it. I think Alexander Skarsgård was fantastic and Margot Robbie was fantastic. So I would go see another one of those. So it's good to see that's doing pretty well. Finding Dory has finally dropped to number 4 with an $11.2 million this week in its 5th week. So, oh my God, $445.7 million domestically. Whew, all right, bring on Finding Hank. I know that's what I said last week. Number 5, Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. Really want to see that. Hate I missed it. $7.6 million, that's its second week. So total of $31.4 million with a $33 million budget. Overseas ought to really pull that through, doing really well. Number 6, we got The Purge, election year. I'll see that eventually. $6.1 million this weekend in its third week. $71.1 million total with a $10 million budget. We'll be getting those forever. That's cool. I like it though. Central Intelligence still hanging in there at number 7. It only dropped one spot. $5.3 million, putting its total at $117.5 with a $50 million budget. Bring on more The Rock and Kevin Hart. I love those guys together, particularly the way they were portrayed in that film. Number 8, The Infiltrator. I didn't get to see that, but it's nice to see that's doing pretty well. $5.3 million in its opening weekend. They have a total gross of 6.7, so I guess there were some earlier screenings or something like that. So that's pretty sweet. Doesn't say a budget, but pretty good for a movie like that. Number 9, the BFG, the Big Fucking Giant. I know, Big Friendly Giant, but I just, come on. $3.7 million in its third week, 47.3 total with $140 million. I mean, maybe it'll break even with overseas. Maybe overseas likes it more. I don't know. It just looked too CGE to me, so I don't know. Number 10, still hanging in there, Independence Day Resurgence with a $3.5 million. So actually, it's doing pretty well overall. $98.5 million with a $165 million budget compared to the way everybody reacted to that movie. I call that actually pretty good considering overseas probably didn't have as strong an opinion about it and maybe made its money. I do wish they had the overseas stuff on here, but whatever. So anyways, that's your top 10. Shallows is number 11, so that's still hanging in there. Sultan, that Bollywood movie, is number 12. That's still hanging in there. That's really impressive. Conjuring 2 is 13. Now You See Me 2 at 14. And Hunt for the Wilder People. I don't know what that is. And number 15. So, okay, well anyways, there you go. That is this week's box office, so yay! But now we can move on to the fun, geeky, nerdy stuff. Sorry I took a little long on the box office, but it's Star Trek week, so we're gonna talk all Star Trek. There's not a big list of movies, it is just the Star Trek movies. So I just figure I'll just kind of run through them, talk a little bit about each real fast, and we'll maybe touch on the TV series some. So the original Star Trek the Motion Picture, a lot of people don't really care much for this one. Granted, as a continuation of the Star Trek TV show, it kind of works, it kind of doesn't, but I actually really liked this one, even though it is kind of slow, but it does have that kind of really 70s serious space exploration vibe, and I think, you know, the whole idea of V'ger, and it was the Voyager satellite, that's really cool to me. So I always really liked that one, although it's not one I rush out to rewatch too frequently. Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. You know, that's a good one. I remember a lot of that from being a kid. As I got older, that probably became my favorite of the classic Trek movies, because I could appreciate it more, and, you know, the chess playing of Khan, like, and then thinking in three-dimensional space and the ship battle and all that stuff. That's one, if I get time, I'd really like to rewatch sometime. And of course, you know, the end will have always been, will forever be your friend, all that stuff. Ooh, heartbreaking. Then we get The Search for Spock in number 3. Don't really remember too much about that. I think parts of that blend into part 2 for me, but it was nice that it's like a direct continuation, like it's the next episode of the series, if I recall. And, you know, because they're on the Genesis planet or whatever, that's where they launched Spock. And yeah, that's right, they had to like take him back to Vulcan and stuff so he could get his memory back and all that, if I recall. And I believe, oh, that's right. Now, did they have the Klingon ship in 3? When did they get the Klingon ship? Because I'm pretty sure, did Khan destroy, or was it in 3 that the Enterprise got destroyed? That's been a while, I can't remember, but pretty cool movie. The Voyage Home as a kid, that was always my favorite, just because, you know, they put it in a time I could relate to and appreciate. The whales thing it's good and bad at the same time. Maybe it's kind of a product of its time, but I do still really enjoy that one for some of the geeky nostalgia, particularly the punk rocker scene on the bus and Spock with the headband on and all that stuff, so that was cool. 5, The Final Frontier. I believe that was the one Shatner directed. Don't really remember much about that. Mostly I remember the hover boots, Spock using the hover boots while Kirk is climbing the mountain and falling down and all that stuff. Don't really remember the bad guy or anything in that. So other than that, that one's not terribly memorable. Was that the one? Oh, is that the one where they go like kind of searching for God or whatever, and it turns out it's like an evil Vulcan? Something like that. It's been like 3 or 4 years. I mean, I watched them when they reissued them, or they came out on Blu-ray for the first time, whenever that was. That's how long it's been since I've watched these. Just to give you a little indication. Then we have The Undiscovered Country. Now I remember this one a lot. That's, you know, it's definitely the kind of setup for the Klingon War, and Spock and Kirk get put on like the prison planet and all that. So that's really cool stuff, which they kind of touched on in some of the deleted scenes in the reboots, the Klingon prison camp. So that was fun. And I believe we had the guy who played Worf. I'm blanking on his name right now. But anyways, he came back and you know, he played like Worf's great-great-grandfather or something, and I think he was trying to be the lawyer that gets Kirk and Spock out of trouble. I don't know. And wasn't it Iman or something like that? A famous model, like played a shape-changing alien in that movie. There's a lot of cool little stuff in that movie, and you know, was it Christopher? No, I'm thinking Christopher Lloyd was in 3 or something. But anyways, lots of cool Klingons and all those. So essentially, that was basically all of the classic era movies, except kind of Generations, which of course was the next one. And we start blending Generations with Next Generation and the classic crew. And there are parts of this, like if you really watch it and really break it down, that don't work as a story. But overall, as a fan of both eras of Star Trek, there's a lot of real fun greatness to be had in there. I mean, Kirk and Picard, you know, it would have been, I know we would have liked to see more of them together, and you know, but it's still, what we got was pretty cool. The story overall, I remember being pretty cool. Again, it has been a while. Now we're gonna get to what might arguably of the, you know, the pre-Abrams Star Trek be my favorite, which is First Contact, because you got the Borg, which is like the great, awesome villain of Next Generation. It's really kind of an action siege movie. Ronald Moore was involved in writing it, and you can tell. So, you know, he had the Borg Queen and all that. So I really, really like First Contact, and you know, I like that idea that it's the story of First Contact, you know, and they kind of time traveled and all that. So that was a good time. Okay, now we get to the ones I can't really remember much about. Insurrection, I seem to recall an invisible base. That's about it. Nemesis, I really don't remember anything at all. So those are clearly not in my tops. Of course, the reboot is fantastic. Just watched that the other day. It still holds up. Into Darkness, I'm about to go rewatch. I don't remember anything about it, and I'll be seeing Beyond this weekend. So I probably have to go First Contact, Wrath of Khan, and then Final Frontier, and then Undiscovered Country, and then maybe Search for Spock, then maybe Generations, then Search for Spock, then Motion Picture, then Final Frontier, then Insurrection, then Nemesis. I'm keeping the reboots out because, you know, they're just, it's hard to compare. It's like apples and oranges because they have the benefit of all the modern stuff. So anyways, there's that. But then there's the various TV franchises, which I'm not as familiar with. Of course, there's Classic Trek, which is great. I always love the colorful uniforms. That's like one of the things that drew me to it as a kid. Next Generation, there was an animated Classic Trek series too I really liked. I don't remember anything about it. It's been so long, but I remember liking it. Next Generation, then what was after that? Deep Space Nine, which I never really got to watch much of, which is a shame because that's like Ronald Moore, where he came from, so I need to go back and watch some of that. And then I guess it was Voyager, and then was it Enterprise? Was that like the prequel? That was what that was called with Captain Archer? Oh, God. Okay, well, let's see. Again, I didn't watch enough of any of these other than Next Generation and Classic Trek to really rank them. So obviously Next Generation is going to win for me. Classic Trek's going to come in a very close second. And then I might have to go Voyager because that's what I probably saw the most of. And then Enterprise because I saw more of that than Deep Space Nine. I'm sure some of you guys are like, what? But just understand that's because I saw very little of anything outside of those two major franchises. But, you know, that's pretty much where I stand with those. So I'd love to hear where you guys stand with all this stuff. I'd love to see what your rankings are, what you remember loving of the new, the modern, the old, whatever you want to tell me. Movies, TV. Let's geek out about it. We're going to have a fun time this week doing Star Trek Week, so comment away and let me hear it. Other than that, I enjoy that thumbs up of encouragement because it is quite encouraging, and thank you for doing it. Subscribe if you're new here. We do all kinds of fun, nerdy, geeky stuff every single day on the Eric Butch channel. And of course, share with your friends so we can all geek out and have a good time together. You can also check out the link to Patreon because you might like what you find there. We do all kinds of bonus videos. You can help support the channel and help it grow a little bit faster and be cooler. All right, well, I'm going to get on out of here and anxiously await your replies, and I will see you guys later.